Hey everybody, thanks for clicking on this video. Today we're going to be modeling sinusoid functions from half-cycle graphs. If you want to follow along, the links to the companion worksheet are in the description below. Also, don't forget to click that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all the videos that we have coming out from the channel. So let's get started. So here we have this half-cycle graph, and this is all we know, but we do know that it's a sinusoid. So that means from here the graph's going to continue downward like that. And this graph is going to continue upward like that. So, how do we figure out the four key components? All right, well, let's start with the amplitude. From the bottom to the top, we go from 20 to 50. So the distance is 30. So that means the amplitude has to be 15, has to be half of that distance. And so the middle, that's going to be the vertical shift. That is going to be 35. So I'll write the vertical shift. Now, the key thing is that this is a half cycle. So we're looking at the x value from 3 to 5. This is a length of 2. So that means, since this is a half cycle, the full period length, is going to have a length of 4. Now for phase shift, now what's interesting is, unlike the other videos that we have, this one doesn't say that it has to be a sine or a cosine graph. So actually, I'm actually going to give you two different functions, two different equations. So for one, I'm going to give you the phase shift for cosine. Now, with cosine, what are we looking for? We're looking for when the function has its maximum. That's going to be at 5. So this equation is going to be 15 cosine of 2 pi over 4 times x minus 5 plus 35. So that's one possible answer. But the thing is that there's actually a multiplicity of answers that we could write. And so what if this were a sine graph? Well, that means we would want to know this point. So that's going to be 4 comma 35. 4 because it's halfway between the x values, 3 and 5. 35 because that's halfway between 20 and 50. So the phase shift for sine, that's going to be 4. So the equation, if we were using sine, is 15 sine of 2 pi over 4 times x minus 4 plus 35. And actually, I want to show one third possibility. What if we started at the bottom? What would that be? Well, that would be a phase shift of 3. But what would that function be? Well, that would be negative cosine. Because normally cosine starts up at the top, but starting at the bottom would mean that this is negative cosine. And so this is why sometimes the number in front is negative, because we reckon this to start at a cycle to start here. So it's going to be negative 15 cosine of 2 pi over 4 times x minus 3 plus 35. And all three of these are equally valid equations for this graph. So let's look at another one. So here we have another half cycle. Now, unlike the last one, this one goes from the middle to the bottom back to the middle. How do we know that this is the middle and not the top? Because people are tempted to think that it's just after this point the graph's going to go down. It's not. The way we know that is because at the bottom, notice what the graph does. It flattens out. But it's not doing that here. It's not doing that here. So that means what it's doing is it's going to continue upwards like that, and it's going to continue upwards like that and flatten out later. So that means what we have here, this is the midline. That's our vertical shift. So our vertical shift for number 2 is 7. Now, one thing to keep in mind is you don't have to find the 4 components in any particular order. There's no one right way to do that. So in this case, it's very easy to see that the middle, the vertical shift, is 7. And then from there, we can see from 7 to 4, that's our amplitude. that distance is 3. And then what is our period length? Well, we go from 80 to 120. And again, that's half a cycle. So this has a length of 40. So our full period length is going to be 80. And so finally, what's the phase shift? Well, what are we talking about? Well, if we're talking about the phase shift for sine, that's going to be right here, because sine starts in the middle going up. So here's our phase shift for sine, and that's going to be 120. So our equation is going to be 3 sine of 2 pi over 80 times x minus 120 plus 7. But what else could we use? Well, we could use this point right here. So our phase shift is 100. Now what point is that? That is negative cosine, because we're starting at the bottom, whereas positive cosine normally starts at the top. So this is going to be negative 3 cosine of 2 pi over 80 times x minus 100 plus 7. And finally, what if we use this point? Well, this point is in the middle, but it's going down. And so if we say phase shift is 80, what's the function? Well, that's going to be negative sine, because sine starts in the middle going up, but negative sine starts in the middle going down. So this will be negative 3 sine of 2 pi over 80 times x minus 80 plus 7. And again, all three of these could all fit this function graph. So if you have a calculator or want to graph it online, go ahead and try it, and you'll see that all three of these should line up. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have suggestions or problems you want to see worked out, type a comment below. To support the channel, click the Patreon link to help keep this going. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, the best way to understand something is to do it.